All right, it's still 7:30 Tuesday, June 16th. The problem with talking for 2 hours about politics is that it does get all these other ideas into my head. I just spoke for 2 hours about Among the Thugs by Bill Buford. It's a great book if you never heard of it and you like football, soccer. If you like any sport, just go listen to it if you're interested in or read it. Or maybe there's an audiobook too, I think. It's from a while ago. I didn't say what year it came out, but it was probably the 90s. Among the Thugs. This is the last I'll talk about it, but the last like hour and a half, this is all I've been talking to myself about stupid politics, and I don't know why everything is like that in the world right now. 1991. Among the Thugs by Bill Buford, Buford. Go read it. It's really good. It's not very hard to read, and it won't take you that long. It's probably my favorite book. Either that book or The Idiot by Dostoevsky, but it's all different. My holy trinity would be Watchmen, the graphic novel, um, The Idiot, and Among the Thugs that I just talked about for 2 hours. What's the guy's name again? Alan Moore. Alan Moore, I think he describes himself as an anarchist. So he's an interesting guy. Watchmen was written during the Cold War, but I don't know when it actually came out. But that's a great book. As a graphic novel, it's still just one of the best stories ever. Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. I never mentioned them. I don't think so. I think I mentioned him in my book that he's an inspiration to just view the world without this left and right bullshit. Because that's how people are trying to force me to view this living experience right now. I'm going to get a tattoo soon that says create your own reality because there's no way to move forward if you live in these old paradigms. I don't know the answer, but I know for me personally, I've gotten this far in life without really being attached to a groupthink. I grew up Catholic. I'm not anti-Catholic. I'm not anti-communism. There's good and bad parts to every philosophy, and people who interpret whatever philosophy, it's usually just the people that either make it better or worse, become radicalized, fundamentalist, and all that shit, or people just want to live and not worry about all the semantics and bullshit. I don't know where the world is right now, or where New Jersey is, or where the country is in America. I mean, in the United States. So all I can talk about is what I see and hear and experience as a human being in America. And I'm going to stop talking about politics because it's just annoying. I did split up this talk because I didn't want to keep going after. That was a lot of shit to go through in the first 2 hours, going through nationalism, the National Front in England in the 90s. I'm sure it still exists. I'm sure there was all kinds of stories during Brexit. If Bill Buford went to England to do another book during Brexit, he might have had like a part two of nationalism, tribalism. Why are these things um, always coming to the surface when things like this happen? I'm done talking about politics because it's stupid to talk about it by myself. I don't even know really the truth about a lot of this stuff. I can just go by what I see on movies, what I hear other people say, and that's all I have to go on. I don't have a lot of life experience when it comes to political parties, unions. I was part of a union when I worked at Aramark um, as a beer vendor, so that was cool. I had no problem with it. I'm not anti-union either. I think unions were the reason people didn't have child labor and people had reasonable working conditions and safer things. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think most people would be pro-union from that perspective. I'm done talking about politics, left and right, labor versus whatever the fuck else. Well, in England, what is it? The Tories. I don't even know what the Republican Party is in America. I feel like in America we just get fucked by the left and right. Democrats and Republicans are just the same beast, and that's why I just don't really think I'm going to vote again. I had the same feelings during the New Jersey governor election. I was like, I'm not voting. I'm just not going to vote. I don't know these people. I don't know really what they stand for. I'm tired of these commercials. I just want the election to be over. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not against Republicans, against Democrats. People are just people. You can't think of people as a one-dimensional entity, which is why I hate identity politics, blah, blah, blah. I'm done. Let's talk about music because it's much more. If anything's going to bring people together, it's not my berating of left and right. It's music. Music will bring people together. That was the Bob Marley effect, the One Love. That was the Fela Kuti trying to bring his people together. Was that a good type of nationalism? I don't know. Fela Kuti was all about bringing Nigeria together, the people to fight the corruption, to keep Nigeria for Nigerians and not these foreign colonial interests. Is that a good example of nationalism? I don't know, man. I think it's just people trying to live a better life. So you can call it whatever you want to call it. Is it an African nationalist? I don't know. But Fela Kuti fits this because he's a part of this. I even wrote about him when I wrote my book in 2022. Because I was a little bit into him at that point. Not as much as I am now. I think I only heard Zombie and the one with Roy Ayers, whatever that's called, Fela Kuti. But now I've listened to pretty much every one of his albums at least once or twice. I started getting into other African music. I found an album by Ali Farka Touré, Toumani Diabate. Apologies if I'm saying your names wrong. I do apologize. It was really enjoyable. I think Ry Cooder was involved with another album. Let me see if I can find that one. Shouldn't be too difficult. Ali Foray. I forget where they're from. Maybe Ghana? What's his? Farka Touré. Yeah, sorry, I should have done this before, but I just wanted to tell you about the album because I only know these people, these two musicians, by one album. That was really amazing. Let me see if I can find it. Toumani Diabata. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he did do one with Ry Cooder. Toumani. All right. It was an album from 2010. If you like guitar music, go get it right now because you're going to like it. Ali and Toumani is a 2002 record by Malayan, I think it's Malayan musicians. Ali Farka Touré on guitar and vocals, and Toumani Diabate on the kora. It's a second album featuring these two musicians. They had an album in 2005 called In the Heart of the Moon, recorded in 2005 in London, and the album was released 4 years after Touré's death in 2006, R.I.P. So they're from Mali, and it's a great album, 2010, Ali Farka Touré and Toumani Diabate. Go check it out. That's all I can really say about it. I haven't listened to it in a couple of years, but it was a big part of my listening in 2020, at least, throughout that time. And also, I mentioned Marlene Ribeiro. She's a young Portuguese ambient artist and psychedelic stuff. Her album, Toque de Sol, or whatever it was called, I'm going to share a song of hers on my Substack post when I finish this one, part 2. This is part 2 because I had to split this up, and I'm going for that style. Even the one I just mentioned, Ale Farka Touré, it's very mellow stuff. They could play bluesy riffs too, but it's very mellow and peaceful. like you just want to hang out in the summertime and not think of any bullshit politics like I just did for 3 hours. Really, for the last 2 days, that's all I've been thinking about for the last 2 days is tribalism, nationalism. And then you add, I was just listening to a podcast that was really good about the 24-hour cable news cycle and how that has really ruined American conversations with politics. I think it has a lot to do with it. And the commercial interest, fighting for ratings. Trump was right about that, that he was giving CNN crazy ratings. Like everything's about ratings, whatever. But yeah, it was an interesting podcast for an hour exploration of how cable news has ruined American political thought or conversations or harmony. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal, but you can't think about this stuff too much. I don't watch cable news for a long time. I stay away from all that shit because I don't want to box myself in, or even at this point, I don't want to know what people are trying to get in my head. I just don't want to know. So I just block it out. Like it is it's not a trigger to me, but it is kind of where I know I'm not going to think about it, so I might as well just ignore it. So I'm reading from my preface right here before I get into the songs of Going Tribal. My lyrics, I'll read this quote for quote from what I wrote 4 years ago. My lyrics somehow drifted a bit towards the dark side throughout these 8 tracks, which was probably due to my initial fits of frustration while organizing these audio files. Maybe there was also a primitive spirit within, compelling me to embrace the inherent darkness within us all, in order to improve my naive comprehension of geopolitics and psychological triggers. So you could see I've changed in these last 5 years, but well, I wrote these songs a long time before Trump. I wrote these songs in like early 2011, 12, 13, around that period of my life. And I guess, I don't know, the lyrics might have came later, but some of these were already written, to be honest. I talk about what is tribalism in terms of music. What is your music tribe? That's a part of Among the Thugs. Among the Thugs, he goes to a bar with National Front, and they're listening to this skinhead punk rock. Yeah, that is a part of punk rock. I think it was more of a conflict in the 80s and maybe 90s, where people would try to have a friendly punk show, and then skinheads would show up. I was never a part of that scene, so I don't feel like I can really speak about it. But that was always a part of it. Dead Kennedys has a famous song, Nazi Punks Fuck Off, or something like that. So, yeah, there's always been, even in punk rock, there's been that, I don't want to say exploitation, because you're free to play whatever music you want. But I guess skinheads went towards more aggressive metal and punk rock. That was in that book when Bill Buford was talking about hanging out with the National Front and how they kind of would recruit people. They would try to recruit the youth at soccer matches, football matches. And sorry, I'm just so used to saying soccer. It's hard for me to refer to English football as like football, because I think of American football. It's weird, man. So what is your musical tribe? Are you a jazz head, classical head? Do you like to box yourself in like that, just like a political party would do? I don't really like that. I think I've said that enough, that I'm trying to expand as a idiotic Italian New Jersey virgin who doesn't have a lot of life experience. I get my experience through music, movies, because I'm probably too afraid to do something like Bill Buford. That's the truth. If I want to be 100% real about myself, I'd be too afraid to go to a socialist meeting and hang out and hear people's views, or go to a communist meeting. I'd be too afraid, even as a journalist, I'd be too afraid to read Mein Kampf or some Hitler stuff, or be exposed to fascist stuff. I'd be too afraid to go to a National Front as a journalist and just hang out with right-wing neo-Nazi skinhead types. I'd feel very afraid to do that stuff. I don't like to put myself out there. Like I mentioned, yeah, like as an artist, you should open yourself up to everything, right? Even hateful stuff, like the book that Hitler wrote. But if you read that book, it's like it's too weird. I don't think I could do it. Like I'm gonna go on Amazon Kindle and download whatever that is it called, Mein Kampf or some shit. I don't think I could do it. People would portray it like I'm glorifying it or something. If you read a book like that, like I thought reading Twilights of the Gods, the Nietzsche, is that how you say his name? Friedrich Nietzsche. Reading that in college, I thought that was like the worst thing I ever read in terms of like the most radical thing. It was actually a good book talking about the superhuman, the explosion of the human ego. That's kind of what he meant, like the God is dead thing, but I don't know enough about that philosophy to speak about it more than that. So in college, if that was one of the books, because we had to pick something to read in philosophy class, if it was like a book by Hitler or some hateful person who almost, you know, took over the fucking world by killing all these people in genocides, would I want to read something like that? It's a touchy thing. I still don't think I would. But as an artist, I keep saying you have to keep yourself open to every point of view. But is that really true? Would I go to a National Front meeting as a journalist like Bill Buford did in a different country? Like Bill Buford had some balls, man. He was by himself. He went to a National Front gathering where he was nervous to even say that. He in the book he wrote, he was talking to the bartender where this meeting was, and he's like, "What's it like having these people here?" And she didn't know what he was getting at, and he's like, "What's it like to have the National Front in your bar?" And she's like, "Well, we're the most racialist bar in England." Like she was proud of it. And it made me laugh in a way because now I hear Joe Rogan speaking about how England, you can't even say anything offensive in a pub or some people will come and arrest you or close down your business. If that's true, I really don't know. I don't have friends in England to verify this stuff. But is there like a weird type of hate speech like that where you can't even debate stuff like this? That's what makes it scary for people to even read a book like Mein Kampf or anything like that. I'm not saying it should be promoted, but I was a political science student. I'm interested in the cause and effect relationships of why fascist movements happen and why people always blame the other. That's a part of this album of what is tribalism really? You look like me, all right. You don't look like me, well, I'm not going to trust that person. Everyone has that inside of them naturally. Maybe it's a part of our ancestry because there's been a lot of distrustfulness. Like, I hate to talk about the people that I knew at my job. I'm not going to mention people's names, but you work with people for 10, 11 years and then you feel like you were railroaded, manipulated, and fucked with, and then they just fire you for no reason. And there's a reason people don't trust people. I'm not going to just go 3,000 miles to the West Coast and have a job interview in the hopes of getting a job. Somebody called me earlier from the Goodwill. I'm trying to get a job at Goodwill or other places. I would love to work for Goodwill. I think it's a fine place that I love shopping at. It's the only place I shop at is Goodwill, besides like Amazon stuff. But if I need clothing, like simple t-shirts, I'm just going to go to Goodwill, even though they kind of raise their prices too. But anyway, like she's like, we don't do interviews unless you're in person, so I can't just travel 3,000 miles to wherever it was in Vegas for an interview. I need to have a job first. I don't trust people. I just don't trust people. I've already been through it with people, very manipulative people, able to fuck with my life in nefarious ways, man. And I just don't want to deal with it anymore. But all right, let me try to speak about more music stuff because it's tough to talk about politics and then shift your gears when I'm in this frustrated state of mind right now. So as a kid, I was more of that wannabe punk rocker, like in Repo Man. Um, you're just a suburban kid like the rest of us. There's a great line with Emilio Estevez when the other kid is dying in the convenience store, and he has that he has a really funny satirical approach to him after he got shot and he's bleeding out on the convenience store floor. He says something like that. You're just another suburban punk, just like me. And I got a Repo Man because I watched that movie recently in my 40s or maybe in my late 30s. But I didn't know that movie existed in my 20s when I was more into punk rock stuff. I really wanted to be part of that scene, but I was too afraid. I've always been very afraid to live on the edges of society, and a lot of that punk stuff was like that to me. I was still trying to find my tribe or just a place. I don't think I was looking for a tribe in terms of religion or anything like that, political party. I was just looking for a place to fit in, and it was more scary, I guess, to go off the edges. That's kind of what punk rock was, and in a different situation, maybe I would have had the balls to do something like that. But yeah, it's a scary thing that not a lot of people can do. Some people are forced into that because they don't have the luxury of going to college, trying to find a path in life like that. And you can find happiness in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it's better or worse either way. If you follow the script, go to school, go to school, go to school, go to college, maybe go to grad school, and then get a job and pay off all those student loans, and then in between that, have a kid or two and get a mortgage. Um, a lot of people don't want to live that life. I don't think there has to be a conflict either between the traditional path that is deemed the conservative path in America or another country. I don't think there has to be a conflict. There can be peace between the conservative approach to living a moral life. This is what you do. You have kids and you pass it down, or the person, and I'll include myself here because I do want to live on the outskirts at this point in my life. I don't want to be antisocial, but to do what I want to do, I just need to work alone. And the pandemic kind of taught me how to survive like that. But to be honest, I was a hermit even through college in my 20s. The pandemic was when I just turned 40, and I was already kind of used to living alone, but that really made me live completely like a hermit for like 4 or 5 years. So why did I write this album? And the first time I wrote it, or when I was thinking of this concept, it was just the music side of it. I wanted to have the cool tribal drumming that you hear in the Horace Tapscott and Fela Kuti. Horace Tapscott, I should talk about a little bit. He's really probably my favorite jazz albums. A few of his are my favorites. Horace Tapscott, The Dark Tree, was the one that I first heard from E-Music way back, maybe 20 years ago. But I don't know when he wrote that music. He's kind of a hard one to follow as a discography. But he was born in Houston, Texas in 1934. He passed away in 1999 in Los Angeles. I think he had a lot of stuff in California. Recently, yesterday, I found an album that really connected with me. He served in the Air Force in Wyoming. Then he returned to LA. I'm getting this from Wikipedia, so I don't know this stuff offhand. In 1961, he formed the Pan-African People's Orchestra, and that's what I want to talk about. That's the tribal type of flavor that just connected with me from the first listen, because it's so much more fun than like boppy jazz or big band jazz or even like Miles Davis stuff. Although Miles Davis, yeah, he went kind of experimental with like Bitches Brew and some other stuff. And to be honest, I'm contradicting myself a little. I think Sketches of Spain is his best. I could listen to that all the time. But it's a different type of spiritual jazz. The one I bought yesterday is just a live album, but there's another one. Live at IUCC is the one I heard a while ago, 1979. Why Don't You Listen? Live at LACMA. I think that's like the Los Angeles something art, 1998, with the great voice of Ugma, Ugmaa. That's the one I just bought yesterday off of Bandcamp, and I'll share that. Why Don't You Listen is an amazing song. I had to buy it at that point so I could listen to it over and over again. I said, yeah, because I don't have an income right now, I haven't been really buying anything, but I don't know. The last few days I've been buying some art stuff. Like, in terms of the art always kind of suffers when you're out of work and you don't have a path like that. You feel like I shouldn't even be buying $6 digital album because I don't have an income right now. So, but for some reason I just felt like buying an album, and I think I bought another one, this ambient album I found earlier. So Horace Tapscott's really influential on this album specifically. I would just recommend go and listen to his music because I can't really talk about him. I tried to find him on YouTube, but I don't think there was any interviews about him. Maybe people on Spotify have podcasts that kind of go into his discography and his life more. I'm sure I could, if I did actual research, like some people would. If this entire podcast I'm doing right now was about Horace Tapscott's life as a musician and whatever, then I would have done stuff. But I felt like I had to mention him and talk about how much I enjoy his music. It's a different flavor than the Fela Kuti, but weirdly, he has a song on that album called Fela, the one I just talked about. Why Don't You Listen? There's a song called Fela, and he kind of incorporates the Afrobeat music, so it's pretty cool. All right. I figured getting through these songs should be pretty easy because a lot of them are spoken word. The one thing I did with one of these songs is called The Dance. And what I did, because I wanted to show, it's a simple bass line like, and over that bass line that I wrote years and years ago, I would just do some spoken word and maybe some chanting in between. So I will share what I came up with. I don't have a 4-track or anything, so I had to play my old recording on my phone while I was reciting the spoken word on my phone. It was kind of weird and awkward, so it's not going to sound that good, but maybe it gives you an idea of what I'm going for. So that's the music side of this, and I think I talked enough about some of the themes and concepts of the lyrics that I'll get into. It's everything I talked about in part 1 about tribalism and feeling like the individual is really not that important. It's God, country, family, and that's not a negative thing. Feeling patriotic is not a bad thing. Like, don't get me wrong. The only time I feel really patriotic is during the Olympics and right now during the World Cup and the USA men's hockey team, women's hockey team, and the World Cup going on right now. That's when I get really patriotic because it's fun. It's not about feeling superior to anybody or looking down upon other people. It's nothing to do with that. It's just, I live in America. I'm going to root for America. It's that simple. But like in the World Baseball Classic. That was so much fun. I was rooting for Italy and the U.S. Whoever came out of that, because Phillies had a couple of people, Dante Nori and Aaron Nola. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. Another chapter I talk about my experiences as a beer man. I worked that championship game against the Vikings where the Eagles fell behind, and then Patrick Robinson had the pick six. If you're an Eagles fan, you know that moment. It changed the tide of that game, and it was the loudest I ever heard. I worked, hundreds of Phillies and Eagles games in the hundreds over like a decade of my life since 2008. I don't do it anymore. And that was the best experience I had when Patrick Robinson picked off, who was the quarterback? Was it Cousins? And he ran it back for a pick six. That was the best moment I've ever experienced live at a sporting event. A close second, very close second, is Shane Victorino hitting a grand slam off of CC Sabathia. I still remember, like I can picture it. I was selling beer. I was coming out of the concourse with the beer, ready to go down the aisle, and then everyone just went absolutely insane, cheering. I think right before that, it was like Brett Myers forced a walk. It was just a really cool, fun experience, and people were chanting "C, C, C, C." So it was a very, you could feel the collective energy of 45,000 people, and it was really cool, man. I've had a lot of good experiences with Philadelphia teams, rooting for the Eagles when they had T.O., and people will be chanting T.O., 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 T.O. Yeah, it's kind of corny, but it was fun to do that. You get 60,000 people singing along to the fight song, or EAGLES. I'm sure it's annoying for other fan bases, but when you're a part of it, you feel like a part of a community. I don't go to church, but I'm sure that's why people do that stuff. They go to church to be a part of a community. They go to other, I don't know, I was going to say political organizations, whatever. I don't know what makes you feel like you're in a community. It could be anything. It could be an ice cream place in your town that everyone meets at. It doesn't have to be some political thing. It doesn't have to be a form of nationalism. It's good to have pride in your heritage, in your ethnicity, in your race, in your religion. You could have that traditional stuff. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying it's bad when you hold that against somebody, or you think your way is better than somebody else to a unhealthy degree. It might be kind of a inevitable thing if you're so into your conservative approach, whatever your conservative approach is. But once you bring that and you affect somebody else's life, it becomes an issue. And that's why a lot of these tribal feuds happen. There's other reasons too, more nefarious than that, more just for the sake of fuck all, it's just anarchy. And maybe it's under the guise of nationalism, or there's plenty of examples of all these various systems. And I hate these isms to begin with, but I kind of have to go down these roads if I'm talking about this stuff. But I talk about it in this chapter. If I had children, how would I bring up my children? I grew up Catholic. Would I do that? Would I just say, I don't know what else to do? I'm just going to bring up my kids Catholic because I don't know what else to do. Is that like a surrender to tradition? It's the Less Than Jake song, because we always have tradition to fall back on. Tradition seems to stick. Tradition seems to stick. Tradition seems to stick to you just like crazy glue. Let me read that real quick. I like it when organically these songs pop in my head. Less Than Jake, tradition. Trading cards. They have trading cards. Less Than Jake, tradition lyrics. Yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about here. How else would I bring up? It's called Faction, I think. I think so. Maybe not. No, I forget what this song's called. Maybe it's called Crazy Glue. Yeah, that's probably what it's called. I think it's on Losing Streak. Less Than Jake fans, you probably. Yeah, it's Crazy Glue. It seems I can't explain it all. All the reasons gone, and I just can't seem to shake what I've been brought up on. And well, it's hard to say and it's hard to explain that all the things I've known are feeling strange. I guess I'll always have tradition to fall back on. And just what the hell am I supposed to do? Just accept someone else's point of view? And we could ramble on and still not know. And what keeps rolling through my brain, it keeps running like a nonstop freight train. It's that tradition seems to stick to you just like crazy glue. I never really connected to that song lyrically until maybe right now. But it's like the New Jersey song. I feel like I have a connection to Less Than Jake because I grew up with it. Other people can point to other pivotal albums in their life. This is Less Than Jake, Losing Streak from 1996. The song is called Crazy Glue. And it kind of fits perfectly into that feeling of what do you bring your kids up on? If you grow up Muslim, you grow up Mormon, Jewish, Catholic like me, you don't really, you're not really a part of that tribe anymore. So what do you do at that point? I don't know. It's a question that probably a lot of people go through when they have kids and then later in life. But anyway, I wrote about it in this chapter, Going Tribal, in my book. Reverting back to my hypothetical children, I guess the most important advice I could really proffer is to be more certain of your individual path in life. My main role would merely be to provide them the smoothest track to achieve their goals, especially when their dreams are all eventually shattered by the grim reality of this monotonous human enterprise. And this is what I kind of wrote as the routine of a life. Eat, sleep, eat more, sleep again, learn to poop on your own. Get a bit more educated than that. Eat shittier fast food. Purchase a higher education that will supposedly determine your purpose in life. Masturbate constantly. Find a job and spouse. Reproduce. Maybe get some free time to sleep and or eat. Then you fuck some more. Get laid off. Fuck angrily. Find a new job or maybe fight in one of those tribal blood feuds if you happen to be born into all of that shit. Fuck your boss's wife. Get fired and divorced. Eat and drink even more toxic shit to hide your despair until your organs almost give up on you. Retire and watch shitty cable news all day to destroy your last vestiges of hope and humanity. Then finally get buried in one of those fancy caskets to prove to all those friends and family members who you secretly thought were assholes that your life was indeed incredibly meaningful. So that's my super cynical side coming out. And in part one, I read something from Bill Buford in Among the Thugs. And maybe I was somehow subconsciously inspired by his writing. Because I did read that book around the same period. So it was probably kind of fresh in my head. But mostly I was talking about punk rock and how NoFX, the decline, and how does that align to my Catholic upbringing? How do I have like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde approach to, well, I don't call myself anything in terms of a religion or political party, but how do I live as an individual and take everything on a issue by issue thing? How do I live like that and try to make both sides of any argument happy? Why am I even thinking like this? I'm not the fucking president. I'm not a fucking public figure or a politician, so why do I give a shit? I just want to make money, dude. And doing something honest, a very honest job where I can just make my money, go home and do my own business and then go back to the job. That's all I'm really looking for in life. I'm not trying to solve all these political divides, religious divides, why people just seem to want to fucking kill each other all the time. I said I don't have the answers, so why do I think about it so much? Because I don't know. I don't want to be viewed as just some Switzerland neutral person. I want to say it's just fuck off, and to both sides, just fuck off and find a different reality that is not, all right, we're going to live our way. You go live your way. Or maybe that's the best we can do. We're a red state, you're a blue state. Don't come into my backyard. I don't know. I really don't know. It's a weird time to live in the United States of America. And I'm sure it's been like this for a long time. If I lived in a different country, I don't know what my experience would be. It's like the Texas approach. Texas kind of views itself as a country. California kind of views itself as a country. It's kind of like a different reality from the rest of the everything else. You could say New York City, but the state of New York is not New York City. Pennsylvania is like a bipolar place. You got a big city like Philadelphia, and then you have all these surrounding more rural places. Maybe the divide is not left and right. The divide is rural versus urban because they're two different realities of how to live and how to survive. Living in an urban place and living in a farm is completely different. You have to survive in way different philosophies. And I think that's why people go off grid to try to escape all this shit. That's not my prime reason. I don't care about politics that much to run away to off the grid living. I was interested in that because it's how I'm able to record music without disturbing other people. I can't buy a house kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I can't buy land right now and build anything. But the goal is to do that. The goal is to buy my own land, like Pretoria, like Family Guy. I'm not seceding from the country. I'll still pay my taxes like a good citizen and whatever else is required. But it's the only reasonable way I could record music all day and night is to be in the middle of the desert somewhere. And eventually I get pretty used to it. It might be shocking in the beginning living in the desert somewhere where there's not many people around me, but fuck it. I'm at that point where I'm taking that risk. All right. I'm not going to go through the music too much. Where am I at right now? I feel like I've been talking for like 5 hours. All right, I'm about 45 minutes in. So let me start going through the lyrics here and see where I get in this jumble of thoughts. The first song is called Sacrifice the Flag. It's mostly spoken word as far as I remember. I was going through these old audio files yesterday to see which one I would share, because I think that's a cool idea to share my old audio MP3s from 10, 15 years ago that led me to write this book. So I decided to share another one, The Dance, which I talked about. So I'm just going to go through these lyrics as spoken word poetry. Alive, forward the rewind, light flashing, barely realized. The freeway hugs the burn, with sunlight reassured. Revival skimmed headlines of the paradox scripted. Lost to placement, passive time spent, another riot, priced your knowledge. Petty crimes undermined, denied the danger capsized. Golden codes, cheap supply, spoiled safety of visions vile. Final edits true to life, restored the civic sacrifice. Alive, suffered dead leg. See you at the end, see you when the muse calls. In light anxious. What does that kind of mean in this song? I can make up some stuff, I guess, right now. I don't like it when people speak for other people. I've had that problem with some people in my life where people think they can speak for you, manipulate events, and then they think they could box you in because everything is black and white. People who think like that try to spread that disease to other people. I use that symbolic element in Garrity, episode 12 of the Madman's Daily Unequivocal Comedy. Garrity, about the cable news host who was being aged out of cable news because everyone was dying off. I guess Bill O'Reilly could have gone on until he was in his 90s, but his fan base was dying off. It's just, I have a conversation in the script about that. And it's kind of funny because the podcast I just listened to mentioned that most people don't listen to cable news anymore. It's a dying industry, just like newspapers kind of did. Although people probably get it online, so newspapers are still a thing. But what is this song really about? It's just you're losing your individuality. It's almost like you're not even born as an individual. You're born, if you're baptized, and you're a loyal follower to the Catholic tribe from birth. And then you have to confirm that when you're, I don't know, 12 or 13. That's kind of like a bar mitzvah for Catholics, I guess, the confirmation. I don't know. It's weird. People who didn't grow up religious don't know the experience of going through 12 years of a Catholic school upbringing. And there's positives and negatives. I'm sure there's people who would have loved to go to a Catholic school. Maybe some of the public schools don't have the resources, don't provide people valuable assets. In a form of social engineering, it gets kind of fucked up. Private schools are a different animal. They're expensive, and you really have to pull your weight because if they have the right to just kick you out at any point. So it is kind of a scary thing. There was a fear throughout high school. I was a pretty good student. I would get pretty good grades, but there was always a fear of not being good enough because it was very competitive like that. But that has nothing to do with this song, really. It's more just about as an individual, like I said, your individuality kind of gets lost in a haze of politics and a haze of tribalism and maybe even worse, things like that. Like, how did the Nazis really form? It only took, what, a couple crazy leaders and some propaganda and some to just organize a whole country of people to want to take over the world? Fuck. Like, Norm Macdonald had a good stand-up bit where he's talking about how Germany always tries to take over the world. Like, fucking just chill out, man. Maybe that's why England and Germany have this violent streak, like a Viking thing. I don't know what's in their food, in their water. I don't want to judge a whole people. That's wrong of me to say, but in the book he's talking about England and Germany had the worst hooliganism in terms of fandom at football games. They would get the most violent. Maybe that's a false stereotype because I don't want to say things that I don't know. It's just like people criticizing Philadelphia for their fans, and they never really know what they're talking about. So I don't know. But the concept is there. How do you organize a whole country of people and just say, fuck it, let's just stop our daily lives and try to take over the world? I just don't see how that's possible. I don't know, man. It's one of those things that I just can't understand a group mentality like that. Once it starts, it probably gets real scary because people are like, well, you're either with us or you're against us. And at that point, that was the same language as the Bush era. He actually said that during the State of the Union. You're either with us or against us. When you have that mentality, it becomes a very intimidating way to speak against anything like that. But you have to do it anyway. There was plenty of people who spoke up against Nazism, but there was that element in every country. There was Nazi movement in America before it actually started. So I guess it just spreads like wildfire, or any kind of communist coup revolution, the Cuban Revolution. That shit is possible anywhere. It's not a part of American culture because we're still a young country. Um, and we're still a very young country, 250 years. God bless America. Hopefully we can stay kind of unified to a degree where people don't want to start having crazy conflicts against each other in terms of states and stuff, or whatever the fuck this is going to turn into. I don't know what the future is. It's really tough to say when you don't follow it, when you're not a member of Republican Party or Democratic Party. But how do you keep your individuality is where I'm going for in a song like this to start this album. How do you keep your individuality, and when do you become William Wallace? Because you could call him a nationalist. We're doing this for Scotland, and yeah, fuck everybody else. This is my island. Or, whatever. I get my history lessons from Mel Gibson, a 3-hour movie about Scotland's fight for freedom. But when do you become so passionate about your heritage, your nationalism, to defend? I guess that's the difference between the German Nazi approach was to spread their Nazism to everybody as the final empire that they were trying to do or whatever. But the William Wallace story, you could say he was a Scottish nationalist, but you have the right to defend your heritage, right? I think most people would agree with that. That was the whole point of Red Dawn, that the Soviets were going to come and take over American towns, and the Wolverines would have to fight off the Soviets, the communists. So that's been a part of people's political global worldview for a long time, and I think it's just stupid. I don't really get involved personally, like I said, because I'm too afraid to get involved in these things. But I'm just trying to give my honest opinions through the art I'm making. The second song is very catchy. It's more of I was going to say poppy song, but it's kind of dark. It's called Bloody Fingers. And it's just kind of my take on war. And a lot of times it isn't what you think it is. It's kind of sold in a way. How do you sell a war to enough people to make them want to fight for you? Through religion, through nationalism. I guess those are the two major ones. Bloody Fingers is song number 2. And I remember the melody to this, but I'm not going to try to sing it at this point. Broke upon the felt again. World revolves oblivious. As kids, they often made that wish and blew the sacred offerings, casualties anonymous. Casinos, gods, and pseudonyms. World beyond, excuse me. I just had a D. Reynolds moment. Excuse me. Casinos, gods, and pseudonyms. World beyond its means again. Like children flipping off the wind. Census in the hourglass. Remedies like contraband. Replay to spill out. Vulnerable recaps. Sacred surgery, bloody fingers. Tamed kaleidoscope, bloody fingers. Afraid to testify with bloody fingers. Dreams drowned out of mind, bloody fingers. Lunacy's consent to breed. Aborted stale economy. Forged in the infirmary, vigilant disharmony. Like the anarchist conformity. I like that line to praise my own poetry. Like the anarchist conformity, because that's everything. Even anarchists, at some point, if they were able to gain power, maybe they would start forming rules and regulations. Libertarians, anarchists, they're all against government. But what if they believe everyone should be their own government, so I guess that's a faulty type of experiment. Anarchists, they're anarchists. They don't want to be in power. They don't want to have people in power over them. that's the trade-off, I guess. That's why people go off grid and try to escape from conformity. So I had an idea for a screenplay where an anarchist that runs for president and actually wins, like a comedy, and what would happen at that point. But it is kind of a stupid idea. There is an outro to this song. It gets kind of dark. Is this beginning or the end? Is this beginning or the end? Is this beginning or the end? It's basically just another way of saying history repeating itself. Are we ending this cycle of madness or beginning a new cycle of madness? Or are we going to go in a new direction completely? So even back then, I was writing lyrics kind of saying how stale politics has gotten, and it's only gotten worse, really. I like this song a lot. I try to make a demo of this maybe in 2020, 2021, because it was trying to make a different time signature. I don't remember how it goes. I won't mess around with the music and melodies right now. But the third song is very memorable to me. I wrote this in 2020, 2021, so I had to add this new song to this album. I had a streak for a couple months where I would pick up my acoustic guitar on Saturday afternoon and the thoughts would just come out like that. This one came automatically as soon as I picked up my guitar. And it's kind of maybe a Bob Dylan inspired song, but not as wordy. It's got a lot of verses though. Maybe that's why I think it's Bob Dylan. It's called When the Sun Goes Down. And maybe I'll sing the first couple verses to give you an idea of it. What happens to the family swept beneath the apple tree when the sun goes down? What happens to the history, the unforgiven symmetry when the sun goes down? I'm singing it wrong, but that's kind of the melody of this. When warriors reform the blade, leave them all little taste as the sun goes down. And it doesn't have to be acoustic. I see this kind of, maybe it starts out kind of slow and then it's one of those songs that develops a heavier shoegaze element later. I do kind of hear heavy distortion on a lot of these tracks. It doesn't, because I'm going tribal, it doesn't mean I just want to make African drum beats and folky types of instruments. That's not what I mean really. I think these could still get pretty heavy in terms of shoegaze stuff. This is an album I would do by myself, I think. It's one of those albums that is personal, and I think I could do these songs some justice if I had the right setup to perform them and do it in a way without AI. I don't want to do anything fake. If I can't get my voice right, well, that's just how it's going to be. If I can't get the right tone, I'm not going to really care. And these are pretty simple melodies, so I'm confident I could do this one. The chorus is just a maybe spoken word. The constant reliance on inactive extinction. The constant reliance on inactive extinction, fading the fable, cursing the feeding. And then there's 3 more verses and maybe some parts for crazy guitar parts, some instrumental sections. What happens to the refugee, iridescent fantasies when the sun goes down? What happens to the circuitry, militant trajectories when the sun goes down? The Cretans cry for liberty deep inside the memory as the sun goes down. And I'm trying to sing more passionately, but it's not really in me right now. I really need music to guide me when I sing. I got so much respect for people, even like Ariana Grande or somebody like that. They're just crazy, like machines that could sing so many different types of music. Excuse me. Yeah, anybody who can sing without instrumentation, just sing a cappella. Brian Wilson. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with Mike Campbell from from the Heartbreakers, Tom Petty's guitarist, and he was talking about Brian Wilson growing up with that and in Florida. Maybe you get to see one concert a year, whatever, when he was a kid, I guess in the 60s. And the Beach Boys was kind of a major, pretty big deal back then. I'm not the biggest Beach Boys guy. Even Pet Sounds, I've never really connected to as much. I don't think I'm taking a hot take just to have a hot take, but Pet Sounds never connected to me. There's a couple songs that are, yeah, of course, but I'll have to try it again and see if I have an emotional response. It's kind of weird for me. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on there, and I appreciate the production. And I love Sgt. Pepper, so all those things should make me love Pet Sounds, but for some reason, it just doesn't connect with me on a lot of emotional levels. I don't know. I just can't really explain it. Like today, I listened to The Rites of Spring. Is that what it was? Hold on one second. To give you an example of how I judge an album. I think that's what it is, Rites of Spring, which I learned from Kurt Cobain's list of favorite bands. I listened to The Wipers, but I didn't really like it. And it wasn't bad. I listened to X, and I didn't really like it. And then I listened to, oh, I'm sorry, The Rites of Spring was something I listened to before, I think. That was the Fugazi inspired one, right? Somebody from Fugazi, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm confusing these things. But anyway, today I listened to Youth of America by Wipers. That was the one I did connect to. When It's Over is a song on there. It was amazing. I didn't like it at first, and then it grew on me and grew on me. So I was like, all right, I have to put this on my list of favorite albums. I'm making 250 more albums that connected with me, and then I'll have another list to share with people. Rites of Spring, maybe I didn't give it a chance yet. I don't remember. Maybe I did. I don't know. Rites of Spring, I have to listen to it again. From 1985. I like the album cover. I'm looking at it right now. It looks pretty cool. I like simple black and white covers. It's kind of black and white. So that'll be something I have to check out maybe later tonight. Yeah, Rites of Spring. I like the album cover a lot. Anyway, that's how I kind of judge an album. I listened to The Wipers when I was reading today, or Wipers, it's not The Wipers, Wipers, Youth of America. And it just instantly hit me, and I was like, I would definitely listen to this again and again. All right, the next song is called Life Neutral. So maybe one day Pet Sounds will hit me like that. Some albums take longer to develop, to really appreciate what was happening, all the crazy harmonies, which I think I fell in love with Fleet Foxes because of the harmonies. So I don't know why I have this bias against Pet Sounds and Brian Wilson stuff. I put a Beach Boys album on my list of favorite albums. I think it was Sunflower. That was the one that I was like, all right, this I can listen to all the time. It's just peaceful music. Is it Beach Boys Sunflower? Let me check that before I move on. I'm starting to get scatterbrained, but that's okay. These are all hopefully interesting topics. Beach Boys. I did not spell that correctly. Yeah, I don't know what it is, because everything that I've liked in my life would point that I would like the Beach Boys. For some reason, it's just not a strong loving relationship. I don't know. Maybe because I got kind of corny later in life. I remember watching Full House with that guy, I forget his name, Uncle Jesse, Stamos, yeah, and singing the Kokomo song. And I probably liked it as a kid, but it wasn't that memorable later in life. To the Kokomo, we'll get there fast. And they had some corny stuff like that, but I'm sure if the Beatles made 30 albums like the Beach Boys did, I'm sure the Beatles would eventually made some corny shit. The smartest thing they did was break up. I'm probably against the majority on that one, so they could do their own thing. Because eventually they would have hated each other more and made some corny shit like the Beach Boys did. So my favorite Beach Boys album was Sunflower, which actually gets really good scores. It's not like it's an underrated album. It was from 1970, so I really like this one. Rolling Stone gives it 100. Sputnik Music gave it 100. So I'm not saying anything new here. So maybe one day Pet Sounds will connect with me on that same level. Anyway, let's continue now. The next song is called Life Neutral. I kind of already went through that type of philosophy where you're almost judged if you don't take sides in debates. Like, if you try to look at things in the gray areas, you're seen as like a coward sometimes. No, it's either black or white. It's either good or bad. And I don't like people that force that type of duality on other people. It's a form of mental manipulation that's pretty fucking nefarious, in my opinion. I don't have examples to really give at this point, but it's involved with everything I've been discussing for the last 4 hours. I'm just going to read these as a spoken word here. It's a good practice because I do still have the back of my head to do an audio book, and this is how I would do this. Daylight transformed, raised in the cradle torn, shallow forgiveness cheap, flip the switch neutral, demagogues drain madness, the idiot's true burden, money manufactured, creeps the torch resistant, banking on the vision, death by designer, looking for a sign of life. That's kind of the chorus there. Yeah, that's the chorus. Looking for a sign of life. I think that's how it goes. Emergence in emergency rooms, needles to christen, diseased by commercials, fucking the horde, looking for a sign of life, looking for a sign of life. I'm not reading these how I like, but I just want to get these words out, I guess. Like, how else would I really read this? I can't fake my voice and be like, daylight transformed, raised in the cradle torn, shallow forgiveness cheap, flip the switch neutral. I don't know what I even sound like there. I'm trying to do Shakespeare or some shit. Demagogues drain madness. I'm trying to find a happy medium between my punk rock perspective on things and a more professional way to recite lyrics. I don't think I found it yet. Demagogues drain madness. Like Mike Ness. Mike Ness, you can hear him just on a podcast, and he's got a really captivating voice. Or who else can I really mention? Some people just have voices that are pleasant, and I don't know if I've gotten to that point, because sometimes I get sick of my voice. When I listen to my talks later, I'm like, man, I don't like my voice, dude. Demagogues drain madness. The idiot's true burden, money manufactured, creeps the torch resistant. Banking on the vision, death by designer, looking for a sign of life. Emergence in emergency rooms, needles to christen, diseased by commercials, fucking the horde. Looking for a sign of life, looking for a sign of life. Oh, yeah, see, I don't know what my natural speaking voice is without trying to fake it. This is just my stupid Jersey voice. What can I say? I don't think it's as bad as other Jersey accents that are kind of like on The Sopranos, like the exaggerated Jersey accent, which people make fun of a lot. Oh, but that's just like a fake Italian accent, right? The Italian, oh, gabagool. I don't know anyone who talks like that. Oh, gabagool, look at this guy over here. Like, I know nobody who talks like that. Maybe it's a North Jersey thing, it's a New York thing. I really don't know people who speak like that. I don't have a lot of people in my network, but in the past, family and friends who were of Italian heritage, I never met one person who spoke like that. Oh, look at this guy over here. Yeah, forget about it. Like, it's kind of a weird stereotype of the Italian dialect or the slang Italian. It's fucking weird, man. I'm not angry about it. I just think it's fucking weird because I don't know anyone who actually talks like that. I'm just out of the loop with that Italian accent. All right, the next song is called The Dance. Dance, motherfucker, dance. Or in Goodfellas, hey Spider, why don't you dance for me, Spider? Like the Joe Pesci voice, is that the Italian voice that people represent to Italian Americans? Oh, oh, look at the balls on this guy. Yeah, it's fucking weird. It's kind of funny. I like making fun of the American Italian stereotypes because I feel like I'm allowed to. But whatever. This song is called The Dance, and I'm going to share the music for this one because it is spoken word and it can be very, very droney. And I'm a drone guy, like I said before. I like the drone, man. So it's a very simple bass line, it's almost like a loop. I don't know how to count that. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I don't know how to really incorporate that as a time signature. But it is a circle that keeps going and going and going until you get to it, maybe a chanting part. But and you'll hear it if you listen to this other audio file I'm going to share. You'll hear what I'm talking about. So over that bass line is just me doing spoken word, dance of resentment, dance of the wicked, dance of believers, dance off the fever, dance up your spine, dance of commitment, dance of the meek, dance to the surface, dance of the heretic, dance of the conquest, dance in the garden, dance with no warning, dance of the ancients, dance of the passing, dance and be counted, dance to the hollow. And yeah, that's basically as simple as it gets in terms of the lyrics. This song went through a couple different makeovers because I wasn't sure what I was going for. There's a lot of old audio files that I was trying to go through, but that's the best I could really do at this point is just share the old audio because I can't do it any other way. The next song is called Going Tribal. There's 3 more songs, so hopefully you're still with me here. Wake the Numbed, Shape Shifting, Throat Singer, Introspective, Sky Under, Sky Under, Sky Under, Sky Under, Love the Sickness, Minds Fatal, Travel High, Vengeance Vital, Sky Under, Sky Under, Sky Under, Sky Under. That's going to sound less annoying if there's actual melody to it, which there is going to be. It's not just me repeating lines like that. I don't think this one has any spoken word. I think it is sung melodies, at least according to how I originally thought it would go. But because I'm into the Horace Tapscott Fela Kuti, I don't know where my melody will go at this point, because I appreciate the Fela Kuti spoken word. and he could sing as well. He had a lot of passion in his voice. I respect that. Or the Fugazi voice. Fugazi to me has kind of a tribal appeal. Like they get real primitive in the terms of punk rock. I don't know what it is. It makes me think of that. I didn't grow up with Fugazi, so it didn't come into my life until recently. Kill the constant, lie stomached, threats leveled, unelected, sky under, sky under, sky under, sky under. And again, there's a lot of repetition because these are kind of simple, more simple songs in terms of the song structures. They're got to be drony in these loops. A lot of them will be loopy type of riffs or bass lines where you can disappear like a Fela Kuti jam, even though I wasn't really aware of Fela Kuti that much when I first put this album together. So the outro is just keep repeating sky under, with another vocal melody singing when the sun distorts, sky under, when the stars revolt, sky under, when the river draws, sky under, when the moon dissolves. All right, let's speed through the next one. Evil Eye is song number 7. Relief by tarot cards. Relief by tarot cards. In cults of bloodlust. It's tarot, right? Tarot cards? Like the fucking jokers and the death. Yeah, tarot. Relief by tarot cards. In cults of bloodlust. Mute the doctor. Speaks on the heart of man. Spike the morning surrender in bomb shelters. Anointed hawk wings, thinning consumption, stark antiquities, midnight linked catharsis, the forest torch for melting visions, push beliefs aside to stare the evil eye, luck without the branch, false anatomy, the end never complete. So who the fuck knows? This sounds like Edgar Allan Poe stuff. Push beliefs aside to stare the evil eye, luck without the branch, false anatomy, the end never complete. I don't fucking know what I'm writing here. This could have been just my attempt to be more poetic. Evil eye, whatever the fuck you want to take away from this song. I don't know what to really say about this one. I like some of the phrases. Mute the doctor, speaks on the heart of man, spike the morning surrender in bomb shelters. Yeah, there's some cool things here. I just don't really know. I don't know how to conceptualize some of these lyrics to go along with the theme of this album. Maybe the last verse is more relatable to what I'm talking about. You want to push your beliefs aside, or are they going to drag you back in to stare the evil eye? You know, you're going to have some luck without the branch, like the branch, your heritage, false anatomy. Sometimes you do feel like you must have been adopted. Where the fuck did all these thoughts in my head come from? The end never complete. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff here. I'm trying to be real about these lyrics and not just give bullshit explanations like I just kind of did. But a lot of times when I was editing these over and over again, it was a long process of just trying to get interesting phrases and something that made me seem more mysterious. I'm not saying these are the best lines of poetry ever. I'm not even saying they're good, but they meant something to me at this point. I'm trying to go back to that mindset of waking up. Because a lot of these songs I had, but I didn't have lyrics. I would wake up every night, like I said before, wake up at like 6, 7 in the evening and just stay up all night till 4 in the morning or later sometimes. And that's how I did the lyrics. So, and if I still had the first draft, it would be nothing like this. The first time I started writing lyrics to this degree for 50 different albums, I was writing like sentences, like really long phrases, really full of myself, like, oh, this is going to be cool. And then the editing was really deleting mostly everything. Number one, you have to sing these things. If I was going to perform this live at any point in my life, I can't have all these crazy run-on sentences. But also, I did that later, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. If you look at my album, Whatever, Whatever, or the Antichrist one, where the tribute Velvet was like me acting like the Antichrist or pretending like that was my artistic alter ego at that point through the concept of that album. It was a tribute to Velvet Underground, but it was more of my approach to if I was the Antichrist, and I just wrote all these long, I guess they're just spoken word stream of consciousness ideas. And so I like that too. I don't know how I would perform that without reading from a book because it's just too many words to remember. When you write a stream of consciousness, like I don't know how to perform a spoken word without reading it. I would have to read it, and I probably mess up reading it. That's how difficult it is for me sometimes. That's why I don't think about performing. It's like Dee Reynolds when she goes to the comedy club and she starts like, or not snorting. I don't know why I just snorted there, but she has like a regurgitation. It's good. I can't do that. It's kind of gross, but I don't know what I would be like as a performer. I don't think that's in my blood. I wish I was a gypsy. I really do. I wish I had that ballsy approach, like the Go-Go Bordello, to just go balls out. I don't know how to form that unless I just go gypsy, hitchhike to California. I don't want to do that. That's not in me to do that. I thought about walking, but I know I'll just end up starving to death. When I get these weird bipolar, schizophrenic thoughts, I'm like, all right, dude, I'm not bipolar, I'm not schizophrenic. Because I know these things are crazy. I can't just get on a bus, go 3,000 miles without a plan, without knowing somebody, without having an actual job to go to. I don't trust myself to survive like that. And I don't trust other people to even say, oh, come in for an interview. I don't know what that's going to get me. What if I don't get the job? And then I'm stuck there and I don't know what to do at that point. I don't want to go through another episode of that where I'm homeless because I don't know how to survive like that. All right, let's go on a happier. Maybe this last song will be happier. For some reason, this album did become kind of dark. The lyrics and the flow, the political dystopian attitude I was having back then, and I still have, because I hate this dualistic approach to everything, where everything's in terms of either you're left or right. Are you a blue state or red state? Well, then you must believe this, and this. And if you disagree with us, well, good luck finding a job. You're going to starve to death. That's what I feel like sometimes. There's this crazy political divide that gets very, very arrogant and narcissistic and violent. And I don't want to deal with that shit. I just want to make art, man. I want to make art with communists. I want to make art with conservatives. I want to make art with Catholics. I want to make art with Muslims and Jews and anarchists like Alan Moore. Why am I able to do that if I label myself something? I guess so. I guess there's plenty of people who work together and they're not the same religion or same nationality. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel there, but something in me is telling me to just stay open in life. But can you survive like that, man? It gets real difficult. The hippies kind of went the other direction eventually because they're like, yeah, but I need money so I can eat. I can't just get high, take LSD. I got to eat too, man. And maybe sometimes they had babies or like, oh shit, we got to take care of this thing. Then you have to become a little bit about the status quo and blend into that somewhat conservative approach. It's not selling out. It's survival, man. How am I selling out by trying to work with all these different people? I don't view that as selling out. I'm just trying to be open to people, as much as I can, at least, because the only way to move forward is to know all these different paths to nowhere, and that's how I view the left and right. It's a path to just ongoing nothingness. That's as cynical as I can get. But again, I don't really know how to get past a lot of these thoughts. All right, this song is called Proverbs. That's the last song of this album. If you stuck with me throughout all my talks today, then thank you. I try to thank people now because it's hard for me to listen to this. I don't know if people actually listen to this shit. Through the muck, hard to hustle with trauma, firing rocks at the sky before it's prescribed. Nurture the wild, muscle the descent, what thoughts can't provide when you're always improvised. Sabotage on solid ground, reconstructed storylines. What can healing provide when you can't feel the fire? At the end, you might find your stride. At the end, you might strike the light. At the end, truth divisible. At the end, going tribal. I think that's what I was going for with this outro. Kind of what I said before, like, at the end, do you just go back to your childhood tribe and just say, well, I don't know what else to do? Or do you have the balls to be the seeker, the wanderer? I talked about the story of the wandering Jew that I don't really know that well, but I know it's in the Big Lebowski, or it's in Fargo, one of the seasons of Fargo. Maybe it's not in the Big Lebowski. Maybe it's a part of the philosophy of it. I forget why I'm thinking of Big Lebowski. But in Fargo, in one of the seasons, there is a connection to that story of the wandering Jew, and I don't really know too much more about that. But I relate it to that quest of a seeker, almost like the gypsy wanderer. It's a common theme in a lot of art, where can art give you that purpose, like having children that does to certain people? Can art be like your children? Can music be like your children? Did Bob Dylan have a bunch of kids? How many kids did Bob Dylan have? Just out of curiosity. Like, would he have been any less respected, or anybody else to that degree? Not everyone has kids, man. How many kids did Bob Dylan have? I have no idea about his personal life, other than the Jacob Dylan, right? The Wallflowers, which I actually saw live one time. How many kids did Adam and Eve have? Nah, I don't care about that. How many kids did Bob Dylan have? 6 kids. No shit. All right, good for you, man. That's a lot of kids. I don't know if any other ones are musicians, but whatever. They're probably living private lives, so I'm not going to say people's names besides the Wallflowers guy. But can art provide you, because it's not a sacrament. The sacraments are, you learn in school, you get your confirmation, then you get married, and then hopefully you have children, and then you go through the last rites. I think that's all of them. I don't even remember the 7 sacraments: baptism, communion, confirmation. I forget, man. But marriage is definitely one. Making music in the desert off grid is not a sacrament. It is a purpose, though. Like, I think even a lot of the priests I used to have as teachers and the nuns back in Catholic school days, a lot of them kept reinforcing that issue to you have to have a purpose in life. You have to have a purpose. And that's a good message, whether it's coming from a priest or any other teacher, because you'll find out. You feel like you're lost. I don't feel like I'm lost right now. It's a different feeling, Maybe I felt like I was lost when I first lost my job in 2021, but now I just feel frustrated that I can't go any farther with this. It's different than just feeling lifeless or feeling blocked, even though I do feel those things. It's not a depression, it's more of a frustration to actually find a way to do this in my own way where I don't have to deal with people's bullshit. I just don't know how to get there. That's why it's more of a whiny thing right now. I wish I had better guidance from people that could give me um, a game plan. That's what I need is an actual 20-year game plan, not as organized as a normal business would do things because it's not an inventory. It's not I'm not a merchant. I'll be selling my art, but it's going to be digitally. I'm not going to be going to a lot of places outside of my desert abode. That's how I view my future. But who knows what will happen? I'll be a different person a year from now if I experience a life like that. Solitude can bring a lot of different feelings, especially the type of solitude I'm talking about where I'll be isolated completely. What if my internet goes down? What if all these other things don't work? I would have to change things and find different ways to survive as an artist. The Starlink thing, there's other ways that people do it off grid that I would need to do research on that I did last summer. Last summer was all about finding out how to do this logistically, and I still have those ideas in my head, buying land, but that was because I thought my Kickstarter was going to work out for me. My Kickstarter was the best way, and it still is the best way to go about this project. It was never going to fund. I didn't have that opportunity to do anything like that. Yeah, well, I'm on the Michael Jordan side of things. Michael Jordan, I don't know a lot about his business life, but I know he had a quote in the 90s when there was an election in North Carolina and he didn't want to get involved in the politics because he's trying to sell stuff. He had a quote like that. Well, Republicans buy sneakers too. And you can't, I'm not a black dude, so I don't know if the guy running was some racist dude down south. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it too much more than that. Maybe certain cultures got mad at him for not using his name and prestige, his influence to get people to vote for this other guy. Yeah, I don't know, man, but that general sentiment is good. I was just talking about that. You got to view people as people, not as political pawns in anyone's agenda. Republicans buy sneakers too. Like I think I agree with his general sentiment as a businessman. Yeah, of course. And then you're assuming that all Republicans are like bad people. Like, oh, Michael Jordan wants Republicans to buy from him. That's why tribalism is stupid. The famous quote is Republicans buy sneakers too, and it's attributed to Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson. Jordan made this comment in 1990 for his refusal to endorse a black Democratic candidate, Harvey Gantt, who was running against, Jesse Helms. I remember that name a little bit. Google is saying this. I'm not saying this. Google is saying that this guy was a racist Republican incumbent, Jesse Helms. I don't know if he even said that as a joke. There's some other different things on Google here. And I think a lot of people were critical from that side, saying like, yeah, how can you say you could get this racist guy out of office, but you can't force someone into politics, even if, is Michael Jordan, he has the responsibility to get rid of this racist guy. It's not his job to do that. It's America, motherfucker. he can branch out. If he wants to get involved in politics, he can. If he doesn't have to. You can't force people into this shit. That's a big problem for the left and right, where people feel like intimidated into doing something. I can't speak for the black experience, all right? Like, I understand sometimes the only way things change is when people throughout history took that bold stand and used their influence to change things. I can get that too, and I'm sure that that's what people would say in response to that. That if you become rich and famous, use your influence for good. Like the Ted Turner example I used earlier today in part one of this talk. So I would have to read more about this to really form a more balanced opinion on this, but really the thing you should be angry about is why are they running this openly racist guy if he's some kind of a white nationalist? Or I don't know Jesse Helms. Like, I really don't know. His name sounds familiar. Jesse Helms. He was a former United States senator and a journalist. If this is the same guy, I'm just going to put in Jesse Helms on race. Let's see what comes up. He remained deeply controversial. Alright, so maybe he had some fucked up shit here. Universally characterized by civil rights advocates as a staunch segregationist and a master of race-baiting politics, while his supporters argued he was a champion of traditional conservatism. It's the same thing that's going on today with the left and right. Helms filibustered the creation of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, saying that it was action-oriented Marxism. He staunchly opposed Civil Rights Act and federal desegregation. I don't want to get into this guy's life. He's the one that had that controversial TV ad, White Hands. A white worker crumpling up a rejected job application while a voiceover claimed white applicants were losing jobs to minorities due to racial quotas. I'm trying to put myself into the shoes of Michael Jordan, and that's unfair to do. Because maybe I guess they wanted Michael Jordan to go to an event and be like, all right, everyone come out and vote for this guy. You got the Michael Jordan seal of approval. Now he's going to win. It might have made a bit of a difference. Like, there's a reason the Democrats always turn to Bruce Springsteen, I guess, to have rallies. And I don't know what the more modern example is like, I don't know. I really don't pay attention to this stuff. I hate anything to do with party politics. I wish there was a better way to approach these things. I really do. But I realize I'm not living in this environment. If I was a black person in North Carolina and I'm like, man, this fucking dude Helms, he's been fucking up our opportunity. He doesn't want to give us fair schooling and help our inner city schools or whatever this was. I don't live that experience, so I could see why some people will get angry at a Michael Jordan and be like, dude, you got to stand up and do whatever you can. So it's a very weird, I can't go back and forth on this by myself. I would need like a co-host or interview somebody to give a better explanation of a different point of view. Yeah, I guess it's just a black point of view because that's just how things are in the 90s in North Carolina. And I don't know what it's like in some of these communities now. So, I don't know, man. It's a very weird thing. Senator Jesse Helms, including his Senator No moniker and his opposition to gay rights, civil rights, and affirmative action. That was a common thing for Republicans back then. That was the whole Rush Limbaugh trinity right there: gay rights, civil rights, the feminazis, and affirmative action. Yeah, Rush Limbaugh was all over all that shit. That was the Republican approach to I don't know, keeping a majority. Um, I guess that's kind of their philosophy. I don't know what the parties are going to look like. There's no way that the Republican Party will stay as it is now. At least that's what I think. I think parties evolve as new leadership comes forward. And I said I wasn't going to talk about politics, but it's just inevitable when I try to write songs like this. I'm trying to be honest about everything and see every point of view. That's all I'm trying to do, man. I didn't live in the 90s in North Carolina when this election was happening. So I can't live in somebody else's shoes and see why people got mad at Michael Jordan. But I just don't like that general attitude where people feel like they're forced into something. I don't like that in any type of political arrangement. I think that's what happened to Bob Marley. Like, whatever political party wanted to have Bob Marley on their side, and I think they attacked his house and tried to get him because they were angry at him for not joining their party or whatever. Whatever Jamaican nationalist, I don't know what it was. Anti-colonial party, maybe. Yeah, I wish I was more in depth about some of these topics because it is interesting. When somebody famous has that influence, what do they do? And it's something Democrats and Republicans love. They love to have celebrities and athletes representing their point of view, or because they have a name recognition already. Jon Runyon, Lynn Swann, I think he was Republican. Jon Runyon, I think he was a New Jersey legislator of some kind. You got the name recognition, people are respected. You go to a voting booth, you usually don't know who these people are, you're just voting for R or D. But if you have a famous person like Jon Runyon, or what if Charles Barkley ran? I'd vote for Charles Barkley for anything, man. I think Charles Barkley keeps it pretty real. He tries to see different points of view on shit. I like Charles Barkley a lot. I think he's a perfect person because he's imperfect like everybody else. A lot of people try to hide imperfections or not make fun of themselves. Charles Barkley seems to have no problem just letting it all hang loose. Just speak on the top of his mind about stuff. But he's a very intelligent dude. I'm not saying he's just a cartoon. He's had a lot of controversy in his life too, but name recognition does get you somewhere, as highlighted by Trump. If Trump wasn't a name like that, a very famous, even television, in terms of The Apprentice, the name recognition is important. Maybe not so much in former decades when celebrity culture wasn't as contagious. It is kind of a contagious thing. I don't know where the future party politics will go, but I think even Republicans would say it's a broken system. Democrats would probably say it too. It's a broken system because it just relies on this dualistic approach to dividing people into these groups. That's how it survives. It's on life support because people are tired of being forced to choose left or right. And it's a corny way to look at it. Maybe it was the Andrew Yang guy who I kind of liked. And it's not left or right, it's forward. That was a cool approach to it. I think it was him that said that. If not, apologies. But I like that. It's not left or right. It's like more of a forward. How do you move things forward? I don't even want to say progressive. How do you progress? Because people hear the term progressive and they go, oh, you're a communist. You're a socialist. You just want to tax the rich, eat the rich, live off other people. That's kind of what progressive means to a lot of people, which is why these terms kind of suck. Communism can create anger in people for whatever reason. There's different forms of communism. Socialism can mean different things to different people depending on their family histories and experiences with shit like that. That's why I wrote this album, kind of. Maybe I'm making that up a little. But even though I try to stay away from these stupid conversations, I felt like it was time to just go through some of this stuff. And I spoke for 4 hours today, kind of farting these thoughts out about tribalism and shit like that. It's tough for me because I don't know where I fit. I don't want to be forced into making a decision like that. Like, you have to believe this, you have to believe this. I don't know which side is more violent when it comes to stuff like that. Because there is a sense of violence. Like, if you're not a part of our team, then get the fuck out. If you don't agree with everything we agree with, then get the fuck out. I don't know. I feel like both sides kind of implement that fear mongering a little to get people to keep voting. So it's a bad situation, man. I'm not saying anything radical here. I think even people on cable news are repeating these same things, that there needs to be a different type of conversation. Where that comes from, I don't know. It'll be some other fake politician, but with a better fake message. That's all you can hope for. It'll be a better fake message than "Make America Great Again." It'll be a better fake slogan, a fake populist, something like that to get people to the voting booths. I don't know. I don't know what it would take for me. Maybe Gillian Welch. If Gillian Welch ran for president, I'd vote for her. Or, I don't know, what famous musician. I might even vote for Schwarzenegger. I kind of liked him. Limited knowledge of his time, but I know he can't run for president. I don't know if you would consider Schwarzenegger a Trumper. Trumpism is a different thing than Republicans, I think, but it is bloated together, or conflated into one bloated party, and the left is just as bloated. I have to say, yeah, there's not a lot of interesting angles to talk about, rather than just disdain for a lot of the messaging that you hear. And yeah, that's depressing, but that's why I don't pay attention to politics anymore. Maybe this album is more of just my explanation of why I don't want to vote. I don't, like, if somebody said, well, we'll give you this job for the next 20 years, you'll be able to do your art if you keep voting Democrat, I'd probably take that deal, I have to be honest. I have voted Democrat for, anytime I voted for the president, it was for Obama. So I wouldn't feel like, all right, that's not that crazy. But I don't want to live like that, where I feel like I have to be a slave, or not a slave. I have to be answering to a party in order to survive. I want to live as free an individual as possible, as an individual, and I don't know how to do that. It's a weird thing to really, to speak to myself about is not probably a good way to do this. It's much healthier if I had other people to speak with, to give me different points of view, because I'm not the first person to have these thoughts either. But that's why I wrote this album. I'm not completely saying that tribalism is evil. It's too simplistic of an approach. Nationalism is always evil. Well, what about movements that bring people together for something good? Do you just call that patriotism? I don't know. These words can get you in trouble, I guess. I try to stay away from it, but of course I've probably said a lot of these words a million times throughout my talks. I'm still trying to come to terms with a lot of these concepts. I was a political science major and a journalism major, and I'm still reflecting back on my college days. That was 20 years ago, and seeing where I can connect the dots with what's going on now. I don't read a lot of books anymore about politics, so I am out of the loop about the future of, I don't even want to say the left and the right. The future, I would see maybe in 500 years is no left or right. It's just a more streamlined, efficient approach to governing without all these headaches and bullshit where who gets to control the Federal Reserve to print more money for their people. That's what it really means, right? I'm going super cynical, but that's what it seems like. You could just print money willy-nilly, even though the Federal Reserve is kind of not connected to the government, so I'm probably wrong about that. But you get to set the agenda for the country, whatever party's in charge, and it's a unique way to, if there isn't much of a choice, is it better? Or if there was 30 different parties, would it be better? Yeah, it's very complicated at that point. There were some classes I took in my time at Towson University about how other countries do things, and I don't remember much of that. Those are more technical stuff, like what is the government called in Russia, and how many houses of government, how many different political parties are in Italy, and different forms of governance where it's percentage based. There's different ways to set it up that I can't talk about intelligently. But the two-party system that we have right now seems to be broken. There's not a lot of ambition to really pay attention to it. It's more of a threatening response to survival. Like you have to pick a side or you're not going to be able to eat. I was going to use a fancy word, but now I forget it. What it means. Elocution. That's a fancy word. Elocution is the art of formal, effective public speaking. Well, that's what I need to work on. Emphasizing clear articulation, correct pronunciation, proper breathing, and vocal projection. Well, it's good I said that. These are all things that I'm trying to work on. Diction, voice control, modulating tone, pitch, volume, and pace. These are all things that politicians need to do. That's why Obama was very effective at giving speeches and stuff. He was pretty good at delivering his message. I think Trump has his own style. It's more of a, it's very weird. I was going to say Trump has more of a working class style, less of sophistication to some of his stuff. And it's very weird to say that about like a Republican populist. It's very weird. But wherever it goes in the future is more interesting to me. I don't want to look at the present and get hung up on the cynical side of things. I'd rather see if there's some kind of a future where things will change radically, where, you know, the corporations can still have control over everything, but just put out a better message so people aren't assholes. Like, I fell into that trap where I fall into party politics, and it's not healthy if you get so obsessed with it. You just have to take it for what it is. But it's harder to do that today than it was in the past. I think so. And, of course, this is from a white dude that never had to go through civil rights stuff or women's rights. So I don't have that in me to really compare to. But yeah, of course, it's not as bad as that shit. I understand that point of view. All I'm saying is I don't like the tone and the climate of people that people have today. It's very arrogant and just not effective. It's not efficient. Republicans are like the business party. And it's just not efficient to me how things are run. Maybe their shit's doing great. Uh, I don't know, man. That's all I can really say about this album before I say really stupid shit about politics. Um, if you got through part one and two of this, then part one was probably more interesting because I was reading from the Bill Buford book. So I'll give him thanks again. Go get that book if you never heard of it, Among the Thugs by Bill Buford. It's the best book I've read over the last 5 or 6 years. And it was the second time I read through it the last 2 days. It's only about 300 pages. He has a very good sense of putting himself into the story, but not being like pretentious about it. That's why I really liked it. So if you like that type of stuff, go give him some love. I think he has some other books too. Bill Buford, Buford, and that's why I wanted to read it again. So I had something to talk about and to connect to these songs because I don't want to be completely full of shit. Like these words came out from me, so they had to come out from something I was thinking about. Anointed hawk wings, thinning consumption, stark antiquities, midnight linked catharsis, the forest torch for melting visions. No idea, man. I can't even give you anything to legitimately say what I'm talking about. I don't think poetry has to be like that. If people are like, well, you're trying to make some point here, right? No, I'm just trying to write some words. You could think whatever you want to think. It's a stream of consciousness. It's a surrealistic approach to writing poetry that's not going to have a political edge. It's more about just consuming words and taking what you want from it. There might be certain songs that are not like that, but this album is more like that. That's why this would be very weird for somebody else to perform because I don't even know what these words are. So somebody else taking this song, maybe that's even more freeing and they could think it means something else. Wait the numb, shape shifting, throat singer introspective, sky under. Love the sickness, mind's fatal, travel high, vengeance vital, sky under. I don't fucking know what these words mean, or what I don't know what the meaning of these words are. That's a better way to say it. There's no grand secret here. Like I'm trying to convince people of a certain path in life because I'm saying honestly, I really don't know what a lot of these songs are technically about. It's just a form of stream of consciousness that I was doing. That was a fear I had because I was writing all these songs at the same time, and I was like, these are all going to sound the same. So it was a long editing process like that. But I think that's everything for now. I usually like to end with a song, so let me try to find that Horace Tapscott one. What was it called again? Why Don't You Listen or something? I think that's what it was. Why Don't You Listen? Can I find the lyrics for this? Maybe there'll be some meaning here if I can find the lyrics. Okay, no, I can't find the lyrics. I'm gonna have to try to find it somewhere else. Hold on 1 second. All right, maybe there's not many lyrics to it. Maybe it's a lot of the repetition of just that phrase, why don't you listen? So maybe that's not the right song to think about, but I wanted to give Horace Tapscott more of a loving approach here because he was a pivotal figure in trying to develop my own style like this. It's tough for me to talk about because I never recorded anything, but I'm reading on a PBS thing about this album. Why Don't You Listen is a Recording released in May 2019. Posthumous, is that how you say that? Posthumous. Recorded on Dark Tree Records by the Los Angeles pianist and artist Horace Tapscott. Though he died in '99, his legacy burns brighter than ever because of artists like Kamasi Washington, who I do enjoy. When I listened to Kamasi Washington, it did remind me of this. I don't want to just read this entire article. It seems like they had an hour-long discussion, so maybe I'll just share this. Get a glimpse of jazz in this new West Coast sound. All right. What else can I want to think of a song that kind of goes into tribalism and nationalism, and I'm having trouble thinking of something. I'd like to end with a lyric of something, just to recite something and then just end it, because I think that is a cool idea to for a podcast that I could do later. Just have 5 or 6 songs and just talk about the lyrics for an hour. I think people would like that. Maybe not just me. I would need more people to discuss things. Horace Tapscott lyrics. Let me see if anything comes up and I could just read some of his stuff. But I don't think he wrote a lot of lyrics, so it's probably a lot of it was instrumental stuff. Let me look for Fela Kuti lyrics. Maybe I can find something there that makes sense about a lot of these political themes I'm talking about. Beast of No Nation. I kind of remember that one as being pretty political. Well, everything he did was political. This is going to be weird because he uses a lot of like slang stuff. Basket mouth won't start to leak again. Basket mouth won't open mouth again. Don't forget. Say I sing. Basket mouth won't open mouth again. I don't know what he's talking about. Them go worry me, worry me. He kind of repeats that over and over again. I was just going to read Zombie, but I've already shared that one so many times. Maybe this isn't the right thing for me to recite. I don't really know what he's talking about in terms of Nigerian politics. Well, I kind of know, but I don't know exactly what this song is about. I'm trying to think of a good song here. Give me a second to kind of go through some stuff. I decided for an easy one. I was looking up songs about nationalism, and I was like, all right, maybe I'll sing This Land Is Your Land. But I thought that was too basic. And that's more of it. I think of it from the David Rawlings, because he covers that a lot. The Woody Guthrie, I don't really know his version. But everyone sings that as a kid. I know we did. This land is your land, my land. It is probably the best song in opposition to that fascist approach. This machine kills fascism. Because he's singing about the struggle of all people. And if people struggling together all came together, then they would be a united front to promote a better life. So that is a good ending song, but I didn't want to sing that. So I went towards America by Simon and Garfunkel, 1968. I'm going to share maybe the First Aid Kit. Their version of this is so good. But Simon and Garfunkel are great. Their harmonies are amazing. I never actually read the lyrics to this song, and I don't think it has anything to really do with nationalism and more of these serious issues, fascism versus communism. I don't think this song has anything to really do with that, but it is searching for something. What is America? What makes America great? Where do you find America? Why am I thinking I'm going to find America on the West Coast? I don't know. This is a good song to end on, I think. I'll share the version, maybe this one and the First Aid Kit version. If you don't know First Aid Kit, I think they're from Sweden. They might be sisters. I don't know. I forget. They're on Saddle Creek Records. Just go check them out. They're pretty popular. I remember them. They had a song called Emmy Lou, or I'll be your Emmy Lou and you'll be my June. And I forget how it goes. But they sang that song at some ceremony for Emmylou Harris, and she was like crying listening to it because they have these crazy, I don't know, crazy harmonies that you just have to watch the video. Look up First Aid Kit, Emmylou. I think that's the name of the song. It's a pretty brilliant example of just how powerful music can be to bring out emotions in you. All right, so these are the lyrics to America by Simon and Garfunkel, Looking for America. I think at least this relates somewhat to some of the themes I'm talking about, because I am trying to find my own version of whatever the American dream is. Sierra Farrell has a song called American Dreaming. That's pretty good, from a couple years ago. I could have used that one too. So these are the lyrics to, now that I said that, let me read that one first. Because that was a song that I used in my book as well. American Dreaming by Sierra Farrell. It's a really good song. I'll go through this and then I'm going to end by going through America, and that'll be the end of this talk today. This is Sierra Farrell from 2024. It's called American Dreaming. Wake up again in an old motel. Is it somewhere different? I can't tell. Every set of curtains opens to the open road, and I'm missing you like hell. This van is like a prison cell, and I know you have gone with her, and I can't go back home. I've been American dreaming. I'm American dreaming. I'm American dreaming, but I never seem to get no rest. I should get some rest today, then pack my bags, be on my way. But my mind's always working on the way it could have been, trying to toe a tightrope line, find a way to feel half fine, without drowning in this wine and calling you again. I've been American dreaming. I'm American dreaming. That's the chorus. I don't want to sing it and butcher this. I've been American dreaming. I'm losing touch with all of my friends, the ones who remind me who I am. If I could just get back home to pick up where we left off, I'd take better care of myself. I'd stop drinking from the bottom shelf, but my old wheels keep spinning and I cannot make them stop. I've been American dreaming, American dreaming. So I'll get back home and try to be someone that's something like me. That's cool. But I've forgotten all my angels. But I've forgotten all my angels out here in the wind, sitting out here with my mind. I meditate to pass the time, but there's something inside setting sail all over again. I've been American dreaming. I'm American dreaming. It's pretty good. It's a very good song. Go listen to her sing these lyrics and you'll appreciate it more. I like that line though. I'm losing, or what was it? So I'll get back home and try to be someone that's something like me. I guess she's just talking about being on the road too long and losing your sense of self. I kind of see that. All right, so this is America by Simon Garfunkel. I think that these two songs kind of are good bookends, or not really bookends. They both connect to what I'm talking about. What is America? Why is America? Why did people form America? Why was it so vital? Why was it so vital to create a new country and fight for independence, form our own constitution, and do all this stuff? What is America? Why is America? How is America? And it's different for every person. That's a cool thing, I guess. That's not negative. Everyone has their own experience, depending on a lot of different variables. So this is Simon and Garfunkel, America, and I'll just end this talk after I finish the lyrics here. Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here in my bag. So we bought a pack of cigarettes and Mrs. Wagner pies, and walked off to look for America. Kathy, I said as we boarded a Greyhound in Pittsburgh, Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw. I've gone to look for America. Laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces. She said the man in the gabardine suit was a spy. I said, be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. Tossed me a cigarette, I think there's one in my raincoat. We smoked the last one an hour ago. So I looked at the scenery, she read her magazine, and the moon rose over an open field. Kathy, I'm lost, I said, though I knew she was sleeping. I'm empty and aching, and I don't know why. Counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike. They've all come to look for America. All come to look for America. All come to look for America.